Shalom. First and foremost, want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS that rule well. Peace, love, and salutations to all the brothers out there pushing this word of sincerity and the truth. Shalom to the brothers, sisters, and children out there keeping this word of sincerity and the truth. Okay, I just wanted to go into this lesson based off of this YouTube short, which when I first clicked on it, I didn't even think it was going to go in the direction that it went in. I was thinking that the woman was going to expose herself about what she did, because the title says how cheating ruined her 2-year relationship. And I'm thinking that she's going to, not this woman, this another woman that he's talking to. This woman right here is drunk. But I'm thinking he's going to go into, or she's going to tell about how she, you know what I'm saying, cheated, as this world or this modern society calls it, but really committed adultery on her man, and she, you know what I'm saying, they broke up. But in actuality, it went into something completely different. And she said that her man was sleeping with his cousin, which the cousin, what she said, was a female. And I'm going to let it play, and then I'm going to go into the scriptures on it. You know, go into the scriptures on everything about, we're just going to go straight into it. So, fair use, fair use, fair use. I'm not using this content to make any type of money. This is strictly for educational purposes only. Bringing out biblical truths. Fair use, fair use. Lord, will you edify?
How long was your last relationship?
My last one was about 2 years.
And did you break up with him or did he leave you?
I broke up with him, but he cheated.
How'd you find out?
I walked in on him sleeping with his cousin.
Well,
in New York.
wait.
Yeah.
Break it down for me.
Okay, so basically we went on a road trip to New York, me, him, and his cousin, and then
And his cousin's a girl.
His cousin is a female. So I took a nap, and then I was looking for him. I asked for the room key to the other room. I lied. I said it was my room. I opened up the room, and they were sleeping together. So that was my experience.
Hold on a second. Was it actually his cousin, or do you think that he was...
It was his blood cousin.
What happened the moment you walked in?
I kind of just like looked, walked out. I take a second to kind of recuperate everything. I didn't really talk to anyone. I put all of his shit in front of her door, and they could sleep together for the rest of the night.
Did he try to get you back? Was there a conversation, or?
Sure, he definitely did try to get me back, but that's not that was never an option after that. It was never a thing anymore, yeah. Wow. But thank you for the interview.
Ladies, know your standards, and there's always someone better out there who has more money.
She's drank a lot.
See, she's drunk. She's completely drunk. And the scriptures talk about women who drink in a ghetto abroad, which I probably get that first, just to cover her. Then I'm gonna go into the point of what the lady's talking about. Damn, how is it word? How is it spelled? I think it's okay. Yeah, this is Sirach 26:8. It says, "A drunken woman in a ghetto abroad causes great anger, and she will not cover her own shame." And as you can see, you can tell by what she had on, she couldn't even keep herself covered. And at one point, you can see, what she had under the dress, her panties. You can see it, on the video. But she's not even the topic of the video. The point is, when she was talking about, she walked in on her man sleeping with his cousin, and not realizing all of that is in the scriptures. And this modern society has taught that something of that effect is it's nasty, it's weird, it's this, that, and the third. But that's not according to the scriptures. In the scriptures, it's not even a law that speaks against that. And I'm gonna go into it and prove it. And there's many different examples of men who built the nation, or built their legacy with the women of their with their mothers. Like Jacob, which I'm finna go into right now. Jacob took wives of his uncle's daughters. And Tobit, he took a wife of his father's cousin's daughter. and which would make both of them, all of them involved cousins, and it's nothing. It was nothing wrong with that. And even in the law, it's nothing wrong with that. Which we're gonna go through the law and show who the Lord has deemed, like who's not supposed to have sexual relations. But I'm going to go straight into this first. This is Genesis chapter 28. Now, I'm going to read down, and I'm going to read a couple chapters of Genesis going into Jacob's story. And then I'm going to go into Tobit. So this is, and I'm going to read this in the AMP. This is Genesis 28:1. It says, So Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said to him, You shall not marry one of the women of Canaan. Now, remember, the nation of Israel was built behind Jacob marrying Rebekah, Leah, and the two handmaids. That's how the nation of Israel was built. So at this time, there were no other Israelites for Jacob to marry because he was the progenitor of the nation of Israel. So it says, verse 2, Arise, go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take from there as a wife for yourself one of the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. And I'm going to get that in a different translation as well, which that was the AMP, but it was one that, the NLT. It says, Instead, go at once to Padam Aram, to the house of your grandfather Bethuel, and marry one of your uncle Laban's daughters. So it's literally telling you, and if it's his mother's brother or if his uncle, that would make them his cousin. That would literally make them Jacob's cousins because that was his mother's brother's daughters. Okay? And that's exactly what he did. And then verse 3, it says, May the Most High, Yahweh Shem Abishai, bless you and make you fruitful and multiply you so that you may become a great company of peoples, which that's exactly what happened. And then it says, May he also give you the blessing of Abraham to you and your descendants with you, that you may inherit the promised land of your sojournings, which he gave to Abraham. Right, so now I'm going to jump to chapter 29, because I'm going to kind of just hit some of the points, because it's a lot to actually scroll, read down on. So this is Genesis 29. I'm going to start at verse 1. I'm going to read it down. So it says, Then Jacob went on his way and came to the land of the people of the east near Haran. As he looked, he saw a well in the field, and there flocks of sheep lying there resting beside it, because the flocks were watered from the well. Now the stone on the mouth of the well that covered and protected was large. And when all the flocks were gathered there, the shepherds would roll the stone from the mouth of the well, water the sheep, and afterward replace the stone on the mouth of the well. Jacob said to them, My brothers, where are you from? And they said, We are from Haran. So he said to them, Do you know Laban, the grandson of Nahor, Abraham's brother? And they replied, We know him. So this was Abraham's brother, grandson, that he was asking for. And he asked them, Is it well with him? And they said, He is doing well. Look, there comes his daughter, Rachel, with the sheep. Rachel is literally his cousin, which is going to go into it. Jacob said, Look, the sun is still high overhead. It is a long time before the flocks need to be gathered in their folds for the night. Water the sheep and go and return them to their pasture. But they said, We cannot leave until all the flocks are gathered together. And the shepherds rolled a stone from the mouth of the well. Then we will water the sheep. While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. When Jacob saw his cousin, Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, which is plain as day, and Laban's sheep, he came up and rolled the stone away from the mouth of the well and watered the flock of Laban, his uncle. Then Jacob kissed Rachel in greeting, and he raised his voice and wept. Jacob told Rachel he was her father's relative, Rebekah's son, and she ran and told her father. So now I'm going to jump down because now, I'm going to keep going. It says, When Laban heard of the arrival of Jacob, his sister's son, he ran to meet him and embraced and kissed him and brought him to his house. Then he told Laban all these things. Now he told Laban basically everything that had transpired and the reason why he's there. Because basically how Jacob, well, you know how people are. If you ain't seen your family in a long time, they gonna ask questions. How you been? What you been up to? What brings you here? What's going on? So Jacob told him everything that was happening. Okay, so then Laban said to him, you are my bone and my flesh, meaning you my family. You my sister's son. You my family. That's what that means. When you say you are my bone and my flesh, that means you my family. Just like it say in Genesis with Adam. It say bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. When they talk about his rib, that wasn't talking about the Lord took out literally Adam's rib and made a woman from his rib. That was basically saying that Eve came from Adam's family. That's all that is. It says, and Jacob stayed with him a month. Verse 15, then Laban said to Jacob, just because you are my relative, should you work for me for nothing? Tell me what should your wages be? Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Both of these are Jacob's cousins. Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful in form and appearance. So, and what it means by Leah's eyes were weak, which I think is another translation that says something different. It might not have. Basically, it's saying that she wasn't as beautiful or she wasn't as attractive as Rachel, because it all says her eyes were weak. But basically, it's saying that she wasn't as attractive as Rachel. So Jacob had more attraction to Rachel than he did for Leah. And it says it right here in verse 18. Jacob loved Rachel, so he said, I will serve you as a hired workman for 7 years in return for the privilege of marrying Rachel, your younger daughter. It's literally all throughout the Bible. It's in the Bible. And like I said, we're going to go into the laws too, where it wasn't a law against a man marrying his cousin. And just to put this out here, I'm not telling nobody to go out and marry your cousin or have sex with your cousin, because most people will be like, oh, you out here telling people to go have sex with their cousins and stuff. That's not what I'm saying. But in the scriptures, there's nothing wrong. It was nothing wrong with that. But modern society in America has taught us otherwise. And here it is. We reading in the scriptures in the Bible where it was lawful, because otherwise the Lord would have punished. He would have told Jacob, you have done an unlawful thing, and I'm displeased by what you've done. But he didn't tell him that. The Lord set it up for this to happen so that the nation of Israel can get built. And before people try to say, well, it wasn't enough people around, they had to do that at this time. I'm going to give another example in Tobit, where Tobit, I think it was from the tribe of Naphtali. Literally the nation of Israel was built, and they was already in captivity. But his cousin Sarah, it said that they was already destined to be married together from the beginning. The Lord had already ordained them to be together from the beginning. And furthermore, Tobias was the one who married Sarah. And Tobias had the right to marry her. And she was his cousin. So it's all in the scriptures where it's nothing wrong with that. But modern society of America has taught people that that's weird, that's nasty. Meanwhile, you got it over here in America where if you're not doing monogamy, you commit adultery. Or they're trying to force men to be monogamous. Make it make sense. That's not in the Bible. You can find what we're reading about in the Bible. We're reading about it right now. But turn around and be in America, you're not going to find monogamous or making men monogamous in the Bible. If a man chose to be with one woman, that's what he chose. But men are not designed to be monogamous. And here it is. It's what, 8 billion people on the planet, so they say. Just to give a number out, it can probably be like 6 billion women and 2 billion men, but you're talking about men got to be monogamous. So that means 4 billion women would not have a man. They would die alone without having a man. That doesn't make sense. So modern society is really backwards. Everything about this world is backwards, and it's contrary to the Bible. But when you start bringing stuff about the Bible, and yeah, it sounds weird, it sounds strange to begin with. It doesn't sound normal. But nothing about this society, this modern world is normal. We're living in a world where men can be considered a woman, and if you don't consider them a woman, you can go to jail for it. You can be fined for it. Nothing about that is normal. We're living in a world where it's hard to even decipher if a man is really a man or if a woman is really a woman. Nothing about that is normal. But in the Bible, we're reading about how the Lord built up the nation of Israel and what was lawful for a man, or who was lawful for a man to marry. But people look at this as weird. So I'm going to keep going. I just had to say that. I'm going to keep going. Verse 19. Laban said, "It is better that I give her in marriage to you than give her to another man. Stay and work with me." So Jacob served Laban for 7 years for the right to marry Rachel, but they seemed like only a few days to him because of his love for her. And Jacob, it was like Jacob was just, it said he worked for 7 years just to marry Rachel. So she was promised unto him. So throughout those 7 years, it said it only felt like a few days. So just imagine like high school. You know how fast them 4 years go by? Them 4 years feel like only a few days. Like here it is, your first day of freshman year, and 20 days later, you a senior. You know, that's how fast high school went. That's how it was for Jacob. It said he loved her that much. Man, he worked for 7 years straight. It only felt like a few days to him. Now, verse 21, finally, Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife, for my time of service is complete, so that I may take her to me as my wife." So Laban gathered together all the men of the place and prepared a wedding feast with wine. And I'm going to get the footnote. It says the wedding feast was usually a lavish event lasting 7 days. A wide variety of food was served along with wine, which was sometimes fortified with spices. So basically what it's saying is a wedding. This was a wedding ceremony that lasted 7 days, and it just lasted no 1 or 2 days. It was a 7-day long wedding feast. And it said it was a lavish event. You know, we do it big. You know, we're going to do it big in the kingdom. Men marrying women, you're going to be doing it big. You those big, because women love big weddings. You know, they love big weddings. Everybody coming out celebrating the union of a man and a woman. You know, we love that. But in this modern society, it's all for the glory of the woman, not for the man. In the kingdom of heaven, it's going to be for the men, you know, because the men are the prize. But that's another topic. And like I said, it was fortified with spices. So, you know, we going to do a big. You're cooking good food. You know, Jake like to throw down. Jake like to eat and drink. It says, but in the evening, he took Leah, his daughter, and brought her to Jacob. And Jacob went in to consummate the marriage with her. And then this footnote, which gave me, you know, it gave you a good set of information. It said Laban must have made sure that Jacob was thoroughly intoxicated before he attempted to switch the daughters, because you could tell, you know, you would know if you're not with the woman that you were supposed to be with, unless you was thoroughly intoxicated. Jacob was in there having a good time. He had his mind set for Rachel, and then before he knew it, he was sleeping with Leah. You know. Didn't even know it until you woke up. See, it said verse 23. But in the evening, he took Leah, his daughter, and brought her to Jacob. And Jacob went in to consummate the marriage with her. And that's another thing. To consummate the marriage, meaning to have sex. That's what consummates a marriage. That's what officiates a marriage, when you have sex. It ain't about putting a ring on a finger. You see, nowhere in these scriptures you're going to find a man bowing down on one knee and asking a woman. Nowhere in the scriptures did he even ask Leah or Rachel if they wanted to be married to Jacob. There is nowhere in the scriptures. It said that Laban asked Jacob, "Look, what you want? You ain't gonna work for me for nothing. We family. Can't make you do that." Jacob said, "Look, I want to marry Rachel. Give me Rachel to marry, and that's my payment, you know, for working for you." Rachel ain't had no say in that. And when the time came, look, Jacob was like, all right, it's time. Now I'm ready to consummate my marriage. I'm ready to make it official because she was already promised to him, but he was ready to make it official. And to making it official is to have sex. So that's another thing. How, like I said, this world, they would consider you bowing down and as a man, bowing down to a woman and putting a ring on her finger. And then somebody saying you are now husband and wife, that consummates a marriage. That's not a marriage. That's Americanized, romanticized bullshit. That is not no marriage. That, again, you will not find in the Bible. That's weird. But the Lord already had everything set up. That's why women are supposed to be a virgin. And when you have sex with a virgin, their hymen breaks. You know, they bleed because that's what that was the token. Well, they supposed to bleed on the sheet, and that's the token of the dowry. That basically symbolizes that she was a virgin, and you were the one to take her virginity. So, verse 24, Laban also gave Zilpah his maid to his daughter Leah as a maid. But in the morning when Jacob awoke, it was Leah who was with him, and he said to Laban, "What is this that you have done to me? Did I not work for you for 7 years for Rachel? Why have you deceived and betrayed me like this?" But Laban only said, "It is the tradition here to give the younger daughter in marriage before. It is not the tradition here to give the younger daughter in marriage before the older." It said, "Finish the week of the wedding feast for Leah, then we will give you Rachel also, and in return you shall work for me for 7 more years." So basically, Laban got over on Jacob, the whole reason for that was because the Lord blessed Jacob. Jacob was making Laban more and more successful, and Laban saw that. So he wanted to trap Jacob more for longer, so that he can keep him there. But really, the Lord controls all of this. The Lord was doing that to build up Jacob. He was building up his substance and building up his house. So that when Jacob finally left, he was wealthy. That was the whole purpose. Now, verse 28, so Jacob completed and fulfilled Leah's week of celebration. Then Laban gave him his daughter Rachel as his second wife. Laban also gave Bilhah, his maid, to his daughter Rachel as a maid. So Jacob consummated his marriage and lived with Rachel as his wife. And he loved Rachel more than Leah, and he served with Laban for another 7 years. So that lets you know that Jacob married his cousins. Laban was Jacob's uncle, and those were his daughters, which makes them Jacob's cousins. Now, which I ain't gonna go all the way into the story. I read it earlier, and it's a very beautiful story, and I might actually go back into it in another video. But the purpose of this was bringing out the fact that men married their cousins. Now, let me go into the law. This is Leviticus 18. I'm going to read 1 and I'm going to read on down. And then after I read 18, I'm going to get 20, and then I'm going to get Tobit. This is Leviticus 18 and 1. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, I am the Lord your God. You shall not do what is done in the land of Egypt where you live, and you shall not do what is done in the land of Canaan where I am bringing you. You shall not follow their statutes, practices, or customs. You are to follow my judgments, my precepts, ordinances, and keep my statutes and live by them. I am the Lord your God. So you shall keep my statutes and my judgments, by which if a person keeps them, he shall live. I am the Lord." Now, verse 6, it said, "No one shall approach any blood relative of his to uncover nakedness, have intimate relationships. I am the Lord." Now, the Lord is going to go into how close of a relation you should not get sexually intimate with. It says, "You should not uncover the nakedness of your father, that is, the nakedness of your mother. She is your mother. You should not uncover her nakedness." So you're not supposed to have sex with your mother. It says, "You should not uncover the nakedness of your father's wife. It is your father's nakedness." So this right here lets you know that a man can have multiple wives. So you're not supposed to have sex with your mother, or if your father has any other wives, even if she's not your mother, you are not to have sex with her because that's your father's wife. Verse 9, you shall not uncover the nakedness of your sister, either the daughter of your father or of your mother, whether born in home or born elsewhere. So you're not supposed to have sex with your sisters at all. You should not uncover the nakedness of your son's daughter or your daughter's daughter. Their nakedness you should not uncover, for they are your own nakedness, that is your own descendants. So you're not supposed to have sex with your grandchildren, no matter if they come from your son or daughter, your grandchildren in general. You should not uncover the nakedness of your father's wife's daughter, born to your father. She is your sister. So it says your father's wife's daughter. So whether she come from your mother or whether she come from one of the wives of your fathers, you're not supposed to have sex with your sister at all. And there is no such thing as half sisters and half brothers. If they come from your family, they're your family. You're not supposed to have sex with them. Verse 12, you should not uncover the nakedness of your father's sister. She is your father's blood relative. So that means your auntie. You're not supposed to have sex with your auntie. You should not uncover the nakedness of your mother's sister, for she is your mother's blood relative. Again, your auntie. Those are your father and your mother's direct relatives. You're not supposed to have sex with them. You should not uncover the nakedness of your father's brother's wife. You should not approach his wife. She is your aunt. So even if it's your father's brother's wife, she's not directly linked to your family, that's still his wife, and that's still your auntie. And furthermore, that's still adultery. You should not uncover the nakedness of your daughter-in-law. She is your son's wife. You should not uncover her nakedness. That's still adultery. She belongs unto your son. And she looks at, and you're supposed to look at her as your daughter, which we're going to get that in Tobit too. You're supposed to look at that woman that's if your son has a if your son has a wife or wives, you're supposed to look at them as your daughter. Same way as your daughter, the son-in-law is not supposed to have sex with his mother-in-law because she looks at him as his son. Verse 16, you should not uncover the nakedness of your brother's wife. It is your brother's nakedness. So you're not supposed to have sex with your brother's wife. All these things happen in this earth over here in America, and it be happening amongst Jake. You should not uncover the nakedness of a woman and her daughter, which that recently happened not too long ago. You had an Israelite man get both the mother, I think they were Edomites, Edomite woman and her daughter pregnant. And they over there happy talking about she get to have a son or a child right alongside her mama. Not knowing that y'all by Shem Shah finna destroy all three of them. Like I said, you should not uncover the nakedness of a woman and her daughter, nor shall you take her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter to uncover their nakedness. Have intimate relations with them. They are her blood relatives. It is an outrageous offense. In 17, it says it is wickedness. Verse 18, you shall not marry a woman in addition to her sister as a rival while she is alive to uncover her nakedness, which Jacob did do that, but the Lord set it up to be that way because the Lord was building the nation of Israel. But we ain't to do that, because like I said, they're going to be rivals. And I'm going to get that in the Bible comparison. Oh, let me do that. I'm going to get in the NLT. It says, while your wife is living, do not marry her sister and have sexual relations with her, for they will be rivals. And Rachel and Leah were rivals. They were competing against each other. If you go back and read in that chapter, later on down in that chapter, you're going to see that Leah was the one that was unloved because everybody knew Jacob loved Rachel more. They knew that he loved her more. But the Lord opened the womb for Leah, and Leah bare Jacob 6 sons. And Rachel only gave him 2. And at the time, Rachel couldn't have no children. And that really put a strain on their relationship in the beginning, But at the same time, the Lord eventually opened her womb. But he did it like that so that they can give their handmaids to Jacob so he could continue building the nation of Israel. And when Leah had stopped bearing children for a minute, she gave her handmaid to rival Rachel. But eventually Rachel was able to bear. But they was rivals. They were they were going back and forth like who can have the most children, who can be the best woman for their husband. Let's see, verse 19. Also, you should not approach a woman to uncover her nakedness during her menstrual impurity and ceremonial uncleanness, basically on her cycle. Don't have sex with a woman on her cycle. You should not have intimate relations with your neighbor's wife to be defiled with her. Don't commit adultery. You should not give any of your children to offer them by fire as a sacrifice to Molech, the god of the Ammonites, nor shall you profane the name of your God by honoring idols as gods. I am the Lord. You shall not lie with a male as one lies with a female. It is repulsive. Is that not what be going on here in Babylon the Great? Did they not make that lawful? There is no law against mo activity. You know, there is no law against that in modern society. But there is according to the Bible, and there's a judgment for it. You know, and that's for both ways. Man with man and woman with woman. It goes both ways. The Lord is going to destroy them both. Like I said, I'm going to read that in the KJV. It says, thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is abomination. And there is a judgment for that. Verse 23, you should not have intimate relations with any animal to be defiled with it, nor shall a woman stand before an animal to mate with it. It is repulsive. It is perversion. Notice how it hasn't said anything about you should not have sex with your father's sister's daughter, or father's sister's, or father's brother's daughter, or mother's brother's daughter, or mother's sister's daughter. Notice it hasn't said anything like that yet. Or basically your cousin. It hasn't said anything about your cousin yet. Verse 24, do not defile yourselves by any of these things, for by all these the nations which I am casting out before you have become defiled. Which I don't think it goes into anything else about it. But I keep going. It says, for the land has become defiled, therefore I have brought its punishment upon it, and the land vomits out its inhabitants. But as for you, you are to keep my statutes and my judgments, precepts, and shall not commit any of these repulsive acts or abominations. Neither the native born nor the stranger who lives temporarily among you, covering the whole nation, and covering any of the other nations living amongst our people, because at the time, our people, they took wives, not only of the Israelites, but of the Egyptians too. You know, some of those women, they had wives of those women as well. Verse 27, for all these repulsive acts or abominations have been done by the men who lived in the land before you, and the land has become defiled. Do none of these things, so that the land will not vomit you out, should you defile it, as it has vomited out the nation which have been before you. For whoever commits any of these repulsive acts or abominations, those persons who do so shall be cut off from among their people, excluding them from the atonement made for them. All right, so now, let me go to chapter 20 first. This is Leviticus chapter 20, starting at verse 10. The man in the AMP, the man who commits adultery with another's wife, even his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall most certainly be put to death. And we know adultery goes on in Babylon the Great greatly. It goes on in America greatly. And everyone that does it is going to be put to death. The man who lies intimately with his father's wife has uncovered his father's nakedness. Both of them shall most certainly be put to death. The blood is on them. If a man lies intimately with his daughter-in-law, both of them shall most certainly be put to death. They have committed incest. Their blood is on them. And see, here it is again. Daughter-in-law meaning your son's wife. Your son's wife, you are not to touch. Because it said That's incest. You supposed to look at your daughter, the wife of your son, as your own daughter, as your own child. That's like your own child. You know? It says, if a man lies intimately with a male as if he were a woman, both men have committed a detestable, perverse, unnatural act or abomination. They shall most certainly be put to death. Their blood is on them. A lot of people are about to be put to death in Babylon the Great for this behavior right here alone. Verse 14, it is immoral and shameful if a man marries a woman and her mother. All three shall be burned in fire, so that there will be no immorality among you. Like I said, you can literally look it up. A black man got a mother and a daughter pregnant. Matter of fact, I'll look it up. Look at that. Earlier this year, it says, man comes clean about getting mom and daughter pregnant as he opens up on messed up relationship. Even the world knows that this is wrong. Even the world knows. And look who at the center of it. Jake. And it says Nick Yardy was set to have his hands full as he recently revealed that his girlfriend Jade, which was 22, and her mother Danny, which is 44, were both expecting his children. You know? Look at that. Nick claimed both Jade and Danny were expecting his children. So he done slept with the mother and the daughter. But did not the scriptures just say that? It is immoral and shameful if a man marries a woman and her mother, and Mary goes into have sex with, because sex is marriage. Sex is marriage. All three shall be burned in fire, so that there will be no immorality among you. So we know their judgment that's coming. It says, if a man has intimate relations with an animal, he shall most certainly be put to death. You shall kill the animal also. If a woman approaches any animal to mate with it, you shall kill the woman and the animal. They shall most certainly be put to death. Their blood is on them. If a man takes his sister, his father's daughter, or his mother's daughter, so that he sees her nakedness and she sees his nakedness, it is a disgrace. And they shall be cut off in the sight of the sons of their people. He has uncovered his sister's nakedness. He bears responsibility for his guilt. Going back into direct incest, you're not supposed to have sex with your siblings. That's wicked. If a man lies intimately with a woman during her menstrual cycle and uncovers her nakedness, he has exposed her flow, and she has uncovered the flow of her blood. Both of them shall be cut off from their people, excluding them from the atonement made for them. So that's going, again, a woman on her period, you're not supposed to have sex with them. People do this in Babylon the Great. Literally, all of this is things that people do in America, and it's become normal in certain cases. Certain cases it hasn't, but people do this as if it was normal. But then we go into the topic of, well, a man can marry his cousin. Oh, now that's completely nasty. But it's in the scriptures. It's in the Bible. But then we're reading about the stuff that the Lord said don't do. That's nasty. That's abominable. That's repulsive. But that's what people do. And that's what this society tries to normalize if it hasn't already normalized it. Verse 20. Did I read? Verse 19. You shall not uncover the nakedness of or have intimate relations with your mother's sister or your father's sister. But such a one has uncovered his blood relative, they will bear their guilt. Now this says because that's your mother's sister, which is directly blood, or your father's sister, directly blood. But it didn't say nothing about their children. It says, if there is a man who lies intimately with his uncle's wife, he has uncovered his uncle's nakedness. They will bear their sin. They will die childless. So it says your uncle's wife, but it didn't say nothing about their children, which would make them, the person involved and the daughter of the children, or the daughter of the uncle and his wife, that will make them cousins. But it didn't say nothing about that. It keeps going. It says if a man takes his brother's wife, It is a hated and unclean thing. He has uncovered his brother's nakedness. They will be childless. So it says, look, you ain't supposed to be taking your brother's wife. But it didn't say nothing about cousins. So therefore, keep all my statutes and my ordinances and do them, so that the land where I'm bringing you to live may not vomit you out as it did those before you. Now, let's get Tobit. Where is it? I have to find, and I'm getting it in the GNT. I believe this is the GNT version. Let's see. Let me see. I don't forgot where is it. One second. All right, this is Tobit chapter 6, starting at verse 9. It says, when they had reached, this is Tobias and Raphael the angel on their journey to go to Tobias. Matter of fact, damn. Yeah, I'm going to just start there at verse 9. It says, when they reached Media and were approaching the city of Ecbatana, Raphael said, Tobias, my friend. Yes, what is it? Tobias asked. Raphael continued, tonight we will stay at the home of your relative Ragul. He has only one child, a daughter named Sarah. And since you are her closest relative, you have the right to marry her. Now, this is an angel sent from Yahweh by Shem Yahushua, telling him, look, you are the closest relative. You have the right to marry her because that's his cousin. It says you also have the right to all her father's property. She is sensible, brave, and very beautiful, and her father is a good man. Tonight I'll discuss the marriage proposal with her father, and he will consent to give her to you as your bride. Then, when we return home from the town of Rages, Salakia, we will celebrate the marriage. Ragul cannot refuse to let you marry her, and he cannot let any other man have her. If he did, then according to the law of Moses, he would deserve the death penalty. He knows that you are the only man who has the right to marry his daughter and receive the inheritance, so follow my advice. Ragul and I will discuss the matter tonight and arrange your engagement to Sarah. When we get back from the city of Rages, we will take her home with us. Tobias then said, now, what we read is, according to the law, he has, because there's a whole order to marriage. Matter of fact, I got to go back to Genesis. But I'm going to go and finish Tobit first. But there's a whole order unto marriage, a whole order. So we had a system on how that works. It wasn't just, it ain't how it is now. This is strictly chaotic. You got day naps. You got OnlyFans. You got social media where women can just go meet anybody, meet any stranger and date anybody. It's completely chaotic. No, in the scriptures, we had a system, we had order, and that's how it's supposed to be. A system and order where a father marries his daughter off. And there was an order unto it. It's just like, even with the order of, I got to go back to Genesis. There's so many points I got to bring out in there. I'm going to finish this first. It says, Tobias then said to Raphael, Azarias, which was his code name because he didn't tell him that he was the angel at this time. My friend, I have already heard about Sarah's 7 former husbands and how each one of them dropped dead on his wedding night, even before he can get to bed. So before he can consummate the marriage, they dropped dead because the Lord had a demon on them. He had a demon, not on them. He had a demon to safeguard, in a sense it was safeguarding, but it was to kill every man that was supposed to be her husband, because that that was about to become her husband, because they wasn't destined to be her husband. It was destined for Tobias to have it, and he's finna tell him. He's finna tell him everything. So I'm gonna keep going. According to the story I heard, a demon killed them. He doesn't harm Sarah, but he kills every man who tries to get near her. I am afraid of this demon. I am an only child, and if I were to die, the sorrow would send my parents to their graves. They don't even have another son to bury them. The angel replied, have you already forgotten your father's instructions? He told you to marry a woman from your own tribe. So the tribe of Naphtali was already built. The tribe, the people, the clan, the nation, it was already built, you know? But she was his cousin. That wasn't an unlawful thing. So there wasn't, people can't use it as an excuse saying, well, Jacob didn't have nobody else to marry. It said marry someone from your own tribe, your own people. And the nation of Israel was already well built at this time. So it says, so listen carefully to what I say. Don't worry about the demon. Marry Sarah. I know that tonight Raguel will let Sarah marry you. When you go into the bedroom, take the fish's heart and liver with you and place them on the burning incense. If you don't know the story, I recommend you read it. It's a very beautiful story. But the Lord had a way that he wanted it to be done to get the demon away. And this is what the Raguel was, this is what Raphael was telling Tobias on how to do it. It says, place them on the burning incense so that the odor will spread throughout the room. When the demon smells it, he will leave and never come near Sarah again. But before you consummate the marriage, meaning before y'all have sex, both of you must get up and pray for the Lord in heaven to be merciful to you and to protect you. Don't be afraid. Sarah was meant to be yours from the beginning of creation. Sarah was meant to be Tobias's wife, even though she was his cousin, from the beginning of creation. So the Lord had, before the earth was even formed, the Lord was like, yep, Sarah and Tobias, at a certain time, I'm going to pair them together. I want them to be together. I want them to raise children, and I want him to be very wealthy and very wealthy in the latter portion of his life. And this is what happened. This is what the angel told her. It says she was meant to be yours from the beginning of creation. And that's the same way even in today's time. You got women that's of the elect that's going to be paired up with brothers that was destined to be with, they were destined to be with each other from the beginning of creation. These, women were destined to be with certain brothers that they're with now, or that they will be with, in the times that's to come from the beginning of creation. That's how the Lord does things. He already had the whole plan thought out before he did anything. And she was his cousin, which was lawful. It says, you will rescue her from the demon, and she will go with you to your home. You and Sarah will have many children, whom you will love very much. So don't worry. Tobias listened very carefully to what Raphael had said. He knew that Sarah was a close relative on his father's side of the family. She was a close relative. He began to fall in love with her and look forward to marrying her. Now let me go straight to, let's see. Yeah, well, here we go. Tobit 7:1. When Tobias and the angel Raphael had entered the city of Ecbatana, Tobias said, Azarias, my friend, take me to see Raguel as quickly as you can. The angel brought him to Raguel's house, where they found him sitting at the entrance to his courtyard. Raphael and Tobias greeted him first. Then he replied, come in, my friends. You are welcome in my home. Raguel brought them into his house and said to his wife, Edna, doesn't this young man look just like my cousin Tobit? That was his cousin. So that would make Raguel his cousin too. They would be like second cousins. And Sarah and Tobias would be cousins as well. Edna asked them, where do you come from? We are Israelites of the tribe of Naphtali. Tobias and Raphael answered, but we are now living in exile in the city of Nineveh in Assyria. So this was the Assyrian captivity. And exile meaning they was just in captivity. They went in the land. Edna said, do you know our cousin Tobit? We certainly do know him, they answered. How is he? She asked. He is alive and well, they replied. Then Tobias added, Tobit is my father. At that, Raguel got up and with tears of joy in his eyes, he kissed Tobias. Then he said, God bless you, my child. Your father is a good and noble man. What a terrible tragedy that such an honest and generous man should have lost his sight because he was blind. He threw his arms around Tobias' neck and wept on his shoulder. His wife Edna and his daughter Sarah also wept for Tobit. Right, so they let you know that this was, and then it said close relatives. They were family, but still he married married Sarah. Now let me get straight to the point because I still got some other stuff to go into. This is Tobit chapter 8. I'll start at 1. When they had finished the meal and it was time to go to bed, Sarah's parents led young Tobias to the bedroom. He remembered Raphael's instructions, so he took the fish liver and heart out of the bag where he had been keeping them. Then he placed them on the burning incense. The smell drove the demon away from them, and he fled to Egypt. Raphael chased after him and caught him there. At once he bound him hand and foot, meaning that the demon wasn't allowed to go back to Sarah or torment her ever again. When Tobias and Sarah were alone behind closed doors, Tobias got up from the bed and said to his wife, "Get up, dear. Let us pray for the Lord to be merciful and to protect us." Sarah got up so that they could pray together and ask the Most High for his protection. Then Tobias prayed, "God of our ancestors, you are worthy of praise. May your name be honored forever and ever. By all your creatures in heaven and on earth, you created Adam and gave him his wife Eve, which was of his family, to be his helper and support. They became the parents of the whole human race. You said, it is not good for man to live alone. I will make him a suitable helper for him. Lord, I have chosen Sarah because it is right, not because I lusted for her. Please be merciful to us and grant that we may grow old together." And then on top of that, it said he chosen Sarah, but the angel told him Sarah was already chosen for you from the beginning. So this also, just like even in the times to come for Jacob's trouble, where we, the ball gonna be in the court of the men, and they gonna be all these 7 women to 1 man, and the man gonna be choosing what woman he want. It was already ordained before the foundations of the earth which woman you was gonna choose. Everything has already been ordained. We just playing it out. It said, then they both said amen and went to bed for the night. Later that night, Raguel called his servants together, and they went out to dig a grave because Raguel thought Tobias would probably die too, and people would laugh and make fun of us. When they finished digging the grave, Raguel went back into the house and said to his wife, "Send one of the servant women to find out if Tobias is still alive. If he isn't, then we will bury him before anyone finds out." They then sent a servant woman to take a lamp and see if he was still alive. As she opened the door, she could see that both of them were sound asleep. So she went back and told Raguel and Edna that Tobias was alive and unharmed. Then Raguel praised the Most High of heaven, which I'm going to stop it right there. So they consummated their marriage and then said they went to sleep, cousins. Now let's go back to Genesis. Just to go further into the whole process of marriage and how the women don't have no say-so over it. Which I'll get a quick precept real quick. Real quick. This is Sirach 7:24. Hast thou daughters, have a care of their body, and show not themselves cheerful toward them. Meaning, don't be lenient towards your daughters. You need to be on them, because if you're not, we see what happens when men are not present in the lives of children in general, but especially women. They destroy themselves. It says, marry thy daughter, and so should thou have performed a weighty matter, but give her to a man of understanding. Meaning, you are responsible for making sure that your daughter is married off into a responsible man, so that they can continue on the legacy of, continue on building the legacy of righteousness on earth. That's why he said, give her to a man of understanding. That's to build the legacy of righteousness on earth. To forward the legacy of righteousness on earth. This is what we're gonna be doing in the kingdom of heaven, which is already happening right now. It's men, it's women being paired up with men right now, and they're having children. Brothers and sisters all around the four corners of the earth that sincerely serve Yahweh by Shem Yahushua. And not saying that they relatives like they cousins or nothing. That's not the point. The point is that the Lord is giving women over to men of understanding. Now, just to get back to the point, Genesis chapter 29. Now I'm gonna just scroll down. I guess I pick back up actually. 31. Now when the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, he made her able to bear children, but Rachel was barren. Leah gave birth to a son and named him Reuben, see, a son, for she said, because the Lord has seen my humiliation and suffering, now my husband will love me since I have given him a son. So as you read down, you will see that they was in competition trying to bear more children. Let's see. And just to get back into the point, like I said, don't marry a sister and two sisters while they alive, because they're going to be rivals. This is Genesis 30:14. Now at the time of wheat harvest, Reuben, the eldest child, went and found some mandrakes, which, I'm going to read, it says it's a narcotic plant thought by ancient peoples to be an aphrodisiac or cure for infertility. So it said Reuben found some mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, please give me some of your son's mandrakes. But Leah answered, it is a small thing that you have taken my husband. Would you take away my son's mandrakes also? So Rachel said, Jacob shall sleep with you tonight in exchange for your son's mandrakes. When Jacob came in from the field in the evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, you must sleep with me tonight, for I have in fact hired you with my son's mandrakes. So he slept with her that night. But as you can see, they were rivals. She was like, you already took Jacob from me, because Jacob, she was his favorite. Rachel was Jacob's favorite wife. So Leah was like, you already done took my husband, and Leah married him first too. So all of this plays a part in it. But she married him first. She was like, you already took my husband. Now you want to take something else? You know how women are. Now, I'm trying to find exactly where. Let me see. One second. Here it is. This is Genesis 31:14. It says, Rachel and Leah answered him. Well, I'm gonna start at verse 13. It says, I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed the pillar and where you made a vow to me. Now stand up, leave this land, and return to the land of your birth. This is what the Lord gave Jacob instructions to take his wives, his children, and all his substance and all the wealth that he had acquired and leave and go return back to the land where he came from. And he was telling Rachel and Leah that's what needs to be done. So it says, Rachel and Leah answered him, is there still any portion or inheritance for us in our father's house? Are we not counted by him as foreigners? For he sold us to you in marriage and has also entirely used up our purchase power. And what they're saying is, it's nothing left. What Jacob had to pay in order to get Leah and Rachel, because the man had to pay, he had to pay for a wife, He said what he had to pay or what he had to give for a wife, hell, their father had already spent it. He had already used it up. Let's see if it said in a different. Yeah, NLT. It says, he has reduced our rights to those of foreign women, and after he sold us, he wasted the money you paid him for us. Right, so Laban was treating his daughters differently. He was treating all of them differently because he knew they was trying to leave. And he didn't like that. He didn't like the fact that they was trying to leave after he became rich off of the hard work and labor of Jacob. So he was treating all of them differently. That's what it started off with in the scriptures. And they was like, shit, he been treating us different too. He acting like we one of the foreign women. And then the money that you paid, you know, this is the daughters, Leah and Rachel speaking, the money that you paid our father for us when he sold us into you, hell, he already spent it. He done used it up. So this is the conversation that they was having. They was ready to go too. You know, but the point is, they were sold unto Jacob, you know, because women are a possession. Let's get that. And this is This is okay. It's right beside it. So I'm glad. This is Sirach 36:24. He that getteth a wife beginneth a possession, a help like unto himself, and a pillar of rest. A possession is something that one person controls or owns. It's something that someone owns. So like it said, they were sold into marriage unto him. Their father was gave Jacob, Leah, and Rachel. But when he gave it to him, it was for a price. It wasn't just for free. You know, he worked for it. You know, and had to pay the customary price for it. That's why if a man does it the wrong way, he still has to pay the bride price. He has to pay the price to the father if he goes off and consummates a marriage with a woman without the father's consent. He has to pay. He has to pay a lot of money for that too. There was one more thing I was gonna get. Yeah. I remember. It's further on up ahead. Yeah, I went straight to the chapter now. This is Genesis 34:1. Now Dinah, this is well after Jacob had left. This is now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had bore to Jacob, went out unescorted to visit the girls of the land. When Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, prince Sheik, of the land, saw her, he kidnapped her and lay intimately with her by force, humbling and offending her. So he raped her. But his soul longed for and clung for Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the girl and spoke comfortingly to her young heart's wishes. So Shechem said to his father, "Give me this young woman as a wife." Now Jacob heard that Shechem had defiled and violated Dinah, his daughter, but his sons were in the field with his livestock. So Jacob said nothing until they came in. But Shechem's father Hamor went to Jacob to talk with him. Now when Jacob's son heard of it, they came in from the field. They were deeply grieved and they were very angry, for Shechem had done a disgraceful thing to Israel, which is talking about for Jacob, or the Israelites in general. It said the use of the word Israel implies the family of Israel, which was developing into a distinct people or nation, and they are recognized by Pharaoh as a separate nation. It said they had done a disgraceful thing to Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, for such a thing is not to be done. The thing that was not to be done, well, first and foremost, was rape, but also, too, all women being with other nations. Now, again, I'm going to make another point, because I know the whole point of this lesson and the topic was to go into the cousin thing, which people will look at that as nasty or weird. But another thing is, all women, Israelite women, was never meant to be with the other nations. All women was never meant to be with other nations. The Israelite women were only supposed to be with Israelite men. Let me get the NET. It says, now Jacob's sons had come in from the field. When they heard the news, they were offended and very angry, because Shechem had disgraced Israel by sexually assaulting Jacob's daughter, a crime that should not be committed. And I'm going to get the BBE. It said, now the sons of Jacob came in from the fields when they had news of it, and they were wounded and very angry because of the shame he had done in Israel by having connection with Jacob's daughter. They said, such a thing is not to be done. So our women was never supposed to be with these other nations men. Never. And then furthermore, he raped her. So he violated her. He disrespected her to the fullest. And just think about it now. Any man who finds out that his daughter has been raped and been violated like that, that man would be furious. Him, and if she had brothers, uncles, no matter what it is, those men would be extremely furious that happened. And now you got a heathen that done it to a princess, the daughter of Jacob. Man, they were furious. But again, in today's time, in modern society, you have our women literally having relations, having sex and getting with men of the other nations. This is something that was never supposed to be done. And then furthermore, the other nations' men raping them, graping. So I know that was a lengthy lesson, but just kind of wanted to go into that. When I seen that YouTube short, I didn't expect it to go that way. And when I watched it and even read some of the comments, people were looking at that like that's something weird, something nasty. And true enough, Babylon the Great has taught us that was, something that was never to be done. But according to the scriptures, that was something lawful, It's because of the programming of America that we don't understand these things. But this is why this truth is out here. So, Lord will, this was an edifying lesson. And on that note, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS that rule well. Peace, love, and salutations to all the brothers out there pushing this word of sincerity and the truth. Shalom to the brothers, sisters, and children out there keeping this word of sincerity and the truth. Until next time, shalom.